in the days and nights of Muharram have to make tough choices, have to rise to the occasion to take on a challenge. And that challenge is to make a Husseini stand for the principles and values of Islam. Nowadays, as of recently, we are seeing that non-Muslims are making great stands of courage, and they are making a stance wherein they're putting everything that they believe in on the line for a cause that seems to be beyond. And for humanitarian causes, we as Muslims have a different route in our activism. When we make these different stands, when we go through our day-to-day lives, our 24/7, our business as usual, our decisions are rooted in something different. We don't make choices based off of a general understanding of morality or based off of humanitarian causes. No, rather our choices and our decisions are rooted in our faith, in our belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the series of the coming 10 nights, inshallah, we'll look at a series of 10 verses or perhaps less. And through these verses, we'll understand what it is, our responsibility is from the divine lens, from these ayats of the Quran, with regards to our belief and how that translates into action, inshaAllah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Salawat. چاند کربلا کے تو نے تو دیکھے ہوں گے اترے تھے اس زمین پر عرش باری کے تارے چاند جلوگر ہے ہاشم کا چاند یہاں پر خیرات روشنی کی لیجیو یہاں سے چاند اس زمین پر رکھیو ہمیشہ ٹھنڈک سوتے جو ہے یہاں پر زہرا کے ہے یہ پیارے چاند بازو کتے یہیں پر عباس با وفا کے اذن نہ پایا پانی بھی نہ پائے چاند پانی پلانے لائے ایک محل کا کو سرور کی غضب مولا نے تیرے ستم لگا کے چاند گردن چیدی پسر کی بازو چدا پدر کا دونوں طرف کر प्यासे जहां से गुजरे चांद करबला के तूने तो देखे होंगे उतरे थे इस जमीन पर अर्श बरी के तारे चांद सलावत
Can I have the mic? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Respected elders, Syed, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. Hope you all are doing well. First and foremost, on behalf of the Mahdi Youth Society, I would like to extend my condolences to you all, to your families, and of course the Imam of our time on these nights of grief, these nights of azah. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow these nights to be nights of self-renewal, nights where we renew our pledge to the Imam of our time, to promise him that inshallah we strive to uphold the values that Imam Hussein alayhi salam left behind and showed to us on the day of Ashura and of course throughout his life. Alhamdulillah, we here at Mahdi Islamic Community Center are blessed to be able to host daily programs for this month. And inshallah, for these first 10 nights, as you'll probably have already seen the posters, we're joined by Syed Zeshum Ahmed, who will be covering our English programs from tonight's Saturday, July 6th, all the way up till Wednesday, July 17th, followed by the Urdu program after namaz, which we are joined by with Maulana Syed Akbar Ali Abdi. So inshallah, the daily agenda would be that at 7:30 p.m. we hope to start our programs with the recitation of the Quran, followed by Marsiya, Salam, our speech at inshallah 8 p.m. After the speech, we'll be having our Noha, and then of course Ziyarat at around 9 p.m. And then we would request that you all stay back to join us for Jamaat Maghrib Namaz on a daily basis. As I mentioned, this year, for this first Ashura, we are joined by Syed Zeshum Ahmed. Syed Zeshum, I would just like to give you all a quick bio of him, since this is his first time here in Toronto and his first time here at Al-Mahdi Center. So Syed was born and raised in the United States. After a year of university studies, he left to join the Hawza in Qum in the year 2013. He's been there since, and he's currently concentrating his studies on fiqh, usul, and philosophy. Syed, we are honored to be able to host you these nights. Inshallah, Syed will be talking a bit about what his topic would be for these upcoming nights during his speech tonight. On top of our daily lectures, we are blessed with the opportunity to host additional programs with the Syed. So inshallah, on Thursday, July 11th, we will be hosting our co-ed discussion in the evening with the Syed. On Friday, July 12th, we'll be hosting a brothers only session. And then on Saturday, July 13th, we'll be hosting a sisters only session with the Syed. Timings and further details will be shared in the upcoming few days. Next, brothers and sisters, we are looking for brothers to inshallah step up and recite. We have opportunities available for brothers to recite either at the start with verses of the Quran. They can recite Salam, Marsiya, Noha, or Ziyarat. So inshallah, if any of you are interested, please contact me. Or we do have a QR code up on the screen which you can scan. And inshallah, inform us of which dates you're available. And then we can inshallah confirm you for those dates. Last but not least, brothers and sisters, as you all are aware, these programs are not possible without your help and support. We are looking for sponsors to help us cover our cost. You can sponsor a majalis for $250 in honor of your marhumin. Or you can sponsor a sabil service, which inshallah will be starting from tomorrow for $150 per night. You can donate in honor of your marhumin, and inshallah tax receipts are also available. For more information, please contact the phone number on the screen. With that being said, inshallah, let's invite the Syed up to the member with a loud salawat. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Can we have 3 loud salawats ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad?
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
اللهم
صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Before we start, inshallah, in the remembrance of all of our marhumeen, those who have passed, especially the ones who have paved the way for us to be here, especially the ones who are dear to our heart, who were with us the last Muharram and are not with us this year. Especially, for example, marhum Syed Asad Jafri, who I know is dear to many people across the world, but especially dear to those who are in Toronto and maybe perhaps especially from the center. Let's please recite Surah Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين روحي وأرواحنا لتراب مقدمه الفداء فقد قال الله في كتابه المجيد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم من ذا الذي يقرض الله قرضا حسنا فيضاعف له أضعافا كثيرا والله يقبض ويبسط وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. For the hastening of the reappearance of our Imam, please recite a louder salawat. اللهم صل على محمد. Inshallah, to the extent of our devotion and our love for the Ahlul Bayt and our desire to join the caravan of Imam Hussein, please recite the loudest of salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajum. Assalamu alaikum jami'an. It's a great pleasure and honor to be able to speak in front of anybody, and especially in front of the mu'mineen. It's not something that I see as in any way a thing that's deserving for me to be up here, to be in this position, to be speaking to you. But for whatever reason, it seems like it's a responsibility and a duty, and inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the tawfiq to say something that's beneficial and something that can help us move forward. First and foremost for myself, beyond anybody else. And inshallah, if it's something beneficial, inshallah, others will benefit as well. That being said, there's a question that comes to mind a lot of times in the sense of what is the role of the speaker when they come on this minbar? What kind of speech are they supposed to deliver? Is it that I'm supposed to say something that's entertaining, that's pleases the people, that have a lot of jokes in it, a lot of laughs, then you come out of it and you don't really know what was said or anything, but you feel like you had fun, you feel like mazaya, it was good, right? Is that the sort of majalis that is supposed to be? Or is there some other purpose that we're supposed to be doing here? And if you ask it honestly to ourselves, then we know what the answer is. There's obviously a purpose more than just being entertained or fulfilling some sort of vague obligation that we feel like we just have to be here. No. Obviously, we're supposed to try to be gaining something. We're supposed to be trying to do something, accomplish something. And for that sake, I feel that, personally, I feel that if I go to any majlis, whether I'm the one speaking or I'm listening, I feel that if I'm completely comfortable and fine with what is being said, and everything is just, in line with what I'm thinking, everything is just perfectly, I feel like I came in as I came out, then probably I'm listening to the wrong person. It should be uncomfortable. Something should be different. Something should be pushing me to do something different, changing. Right? That's the whole point. If I'm not going to be changing and becoming different, if I'm not being pushed to start thinking, to change my life, then why am I here in the first place? If I'm already in the caravan of Imam Hussein, then I've already reached. And of course, there is definitely a great amount, and maybe the pure purpose of these majalis is to commemorate Imam Hussein and to grieve for him. Right? And if we were living in maybe better times, right, perhaps we could have done this, that these 10 nights would be only musibah and masaib. Right? And we would only mourn. Perhaps that would be something that would be, in an ideal world, the thing to do in these days. Unfortunately, we don't live in ideal times. Right? And this time is a time where we're given the tawfiq, we're given the opportunity to gather around, and it's perhaps one of the few times that we have the opportunity to talk about something serious as well, something that might change us, enlighten us, and make us look at the world differently. And so we have to use that opportunity wisely. So inshallah, that's my purpose in saying things. If I say things bluntly, if I say things harshly, then know that it's directed towards myself first and foremost. It's not directed to anybody. And I do know a few faces here. I do know a few people from past experiences, but vast majority of people here I've never met and I don't know anything about. And so everything that I say is geared first and foremost to myself. With that sort of disclaimer done, I know that Ashraf mentioned that I'm going to be mentioning my topic, but I'm actually not going to be mentioning my topic now either. Not for any sort of malicious reason or that I don't have a topic. I do, I promise. But I just find that by mentioning a specific thing or name as a topic, there's certain ideas that will form in your mind. And those ideas that form in your mind might be different from what I'm trying to portray. And if that happens, then my job and my sort of attempt in trying to convey something would become double in terms of the difficulty. And beyond that, I might be speaking about that topic in various different ways. For example, today and tonight, I don't intend to maybe even mention a single word about, at least directly, about my topic. Right? It's laying the foundation for it in a very indirect way. And so if I were to mention my topic name and then you were to listen to the speech, you would think to yourself, well, maybe this guy got confused and said the wrong thing, or what's happening. Right? So inshallah, we'll leave it for ourselves to figure out the topic throughout the 10 days, inshallah, something will become clear by that time and will be beneficial for us. Please say salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now, the first question, and the question that I'd like to address, or a point that I'd like to address, maybe in the beginning of every ashra that I've done so far, is what are we doing here? Right? We were here in maybe the same position last year. We were in the Majlis the same time last year. Perhaps many years that we can remember, we've been in majalis. We've been commemorating, mourning Imam Hussein year after year after year. Right? So what are we doing it for? Isn't it enough? Isn't there some other tragedy that we can mourn? Isn't there something else that we can be doing? Why are we still here? And the question lies in the answer to this question lies in a different question. And that's if I were to compare myself right now as I am sitting here with who I was a year ago. Right? First night of Muharram, right? Last year. Do I see myself to be someone different? Have I changed? Have I improved? Have I regressed? Is there anything different about me? If there's not, or if na'udhu billah, if I've regressed, if I've become worse, then there's a problem. Right? As mentioned in the beginning, these majalis are supposed to be a vehicle of change. It's supposed to be how I become different, how I join the caravan of Imam Hussain. If I'm not becoming different through this, right, then there's something wrong. And what I should be attempting to gain through this is that change. Have I changed enough? Well, just compare ourselves. Compare ourselves with the companions of Imam Hussain. If I can honestly say that, I'm at the same level as them, then okay, maybe our job is done. Right? But I feel like perhaps nobody has the audacity to be able to say that. Right? We're far from them. And that's the reality. We have to admit it. And so we're here to create that change. But sometimes we become somewhat clouded based on various reasons. One of the biggest things that, or let's mention two different, maybe for two different generations. For one generation, right, perhaps the purpose of these majalis becomes clouded because of culture, of cultural associations of what these majalis should look like, of expectations of what things should be going like. Okay? That majalis culturally were always done in some way, whatever culture it might be. And I expect that this culture should continue, and that's what's important to me. Right? What's important to me is that my expectations, those particular Marsiya and Salam and Noha and all of these things has to be done in the exact right order, with the exact right Masaib, with the exact right, Wawa moment and all of that. It has to all be done precisely. If it's not, then the majlis wasn't done. Okay? And in that pursuit, I miss anything about myself. Right? It's not really about me. I'm not doing anything about me. I'm not even looking at myself. I'm just looking at everything in the peripheral, whatever is around me. For another generation, right, the problem might be completely different. Maybe they were brought up in a culture where everything is centered about self-benefit. Right? What does this give me? Right? I go to school so I can get a degree. Get a degree so I can get a job. I get a job so I can buy this thing and buy that thing. Right? Everything is about the benefit that it serves to me. Go to this majlis, what benefit does it serve? Perhaps I don't see it. And so I become detached. I think it's not worth it. These things cloud us. But sometimes we don't even go to the extent of asking ourselves the question. So let's ask the question in this way. We claim that we love Imam Hussain, inshallah we do. We claim that we love the Ahlul Bayt. We claim that we want to be part of the caravan of Imam Hussain. We claim that all the time. But let's put that to the test. If I was a true lover of Imam Hussain and wanted to be his companion, then my actions should resemble and should be in line with what he loves and likes. Okay? For example, let's say my wife loves strawberries. In case she's listening, I know that you don't love strawberries. Okay? Let's say that she loves strawberries. And I know that she loves strawberries. Now, if I go and I look and I get a sort of bucket of strawberries, and instead of giving it to her, I throw them away right in front of her, not once, not twice, but 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, all the time, well then, I can't really claim that I love her, right? If I'm openly and constantly doing that, well, that's not really demonstrating any kind of attachment or love or even liking. Let's look at ourselves. Imam Hussain loves prayer. He loves worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, the ultimate request that he has, right, on the 9th of Muharram is for the battle to be delayed one day, so that they're given the opportunity to have one more night to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? The sounds that were being raised on the night of Ashura were the sounds of munajat, of prayer. That's what people were busy with. And so if I see myself, when I'm not praying, or I'm delaying prayer to the last moment possible, or I'm not doing it at all, not once, not twice, not by mistake, not by just, one moment of ghafla and then tawbah. No. I do it again and again and again. How could I say that I love Imam Hussein? Right? Whatever we might say outwardly, that's one thing. But let's not lie to ourselves. Right? We can be honest with ourselves. In the privacy of our own minds, we can be honest with ourselves. Right? If I want to be a lover of Imam Hussein, if I want to be a lover of Hazrat Zainab, then I have to resemble them in some way. What was important for them should be what's important for me. Think about it in any relationship you have. Any relationship. If you're married, the relationship with your spouse. If you're not married, relationship with parents, with siblings, with friends, with whoever it is. If they're important to you, then what's important to them becomes important to you as well. It's not something that's complicated. It's something that's obvious. So why is it that that's not happening here? Why is it that we're not changing? It's because we have an idea, a mental image of the Imams of Hazrat Zainab that's different than their reality. Who we're claiming to mourn and have an attachment to is not the real Imam. If it was, we would have changed. So we can't delude ourselves. There's a story of a great arif. His name is Akhund Kashi. Now, this story is related by Marhum Ayatul Misbah Yazdi. So he says that this arif, Akhund Kashi, who lived in Isfahan, he was in a madrasa, and the madrasa sort of had like a balcony where there was rooms on the second floor, and it was overlooking the middle courtyard area where people would do wudu, and then they would pray there. If they were travelers, they would sometimes go to this madrasa to stop there and pray. He lived maybe around 200 years ago. Maybe. So he released the story that one time there's this caravan that came through, and this person in this caravan, one of them, came, did wudu and prayed really quickly, like extremely quickly. So quick that he couldn't handle sort of not approaching this person. So this Akhund Kashi goes to this person and says that, was this prayer that you just did? Right? Like, is this prayer? The response surprised him. He said, no, it's not. The person responded saying, I know that I'm not praying. I know what I'm doing right now, that's not the prayer that's wanted of me. All I'm doing is I'm telling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I don't want to be your enemy. You made this something that's wajib on me, I'm going to do it. Right? At the very least, I'm going to do it. This Akhund Kashi, he becomes affected by this. He starts crying. He says that his prayer is better than mine. He at least knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. So let's not delude ourselves. Right? This isn't a thing to become depressed of and say that, okay, our path forward is blocked, we've been wasting our time, we haven't done things right. No. The point is to become aware of ourselves. Once we become aware of ourselves, we can plot our path forward. We can take the next step and the next step. But it's important that we realize where we are. There's a hadith by Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajl. He says, Man i'tadala yawmahu fahuwa maghboon. That the one who, although this hadith I'm saying is from Imam Sadiq, but if you look, this hadith is also mentioned by several other Imams and the Prophet himself. You see, with slight difference in wordings and things, but we have it being narrated from several different Imams. I believe Imam Qadim and some, Imam Ali and some. The Prophet, in a brief glance, will show that this hadith is narrated by many, many different Imams. So it shows perhaps the importance of this words, that several of the Ma'sumin have said the same thing again and again and again. So that whoever has 2 days that are equal to each other, and they've been deceived. They've been tricked. And it continues, it says that whoever's second day and the end of his second day is the worst part of his 2 days, right? And this person has become mad. He's like become bewildered, charmed by this world into madness. It continues. It says, whoever does not look for a way throughout his day to remove his deficiencies, then deficiency becomes something that's constant for him. Always will have deficiency. And someone who has always become accompanied with deficiency, for them death is better than life. Let's take this opportunity. Like, it's a golden opportunity. Right? These days of Muharram are like a constant for us. They become like a time where we can look very clearly and see where we were before. And we can do this muhasabah. We can account for ourselves, look at ourselves, see where we were the previous year, where am I now? It becomes that tawfiq that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to us. And so we should use it. Use it to the extent of our ability. Please say salawat ala Muhammad wa Muhammad. So if we want to see, obviously the next step in this, I guess you could say self-accounting or questioning or things that we have for ourselves, is to see where we are. Right? One of the things that we have to do is revisit and constantly revisit our understanding of Islam. Sometimes based on the way that we were taught Islam, it becomes an eclectic combination of random pieces of information. Right? There's a bit of things about belief system, there's a bit of things about ahkam, about red lines, about moral ethics and akhlaq, and all these sort of random pieces of information. And it's never really some holistic picture that I understand. It's never really something that's sunk in as a way of life. It's something we have to work on. It's not enough for me to just claim that I'm Muslim. Right? It's not a claim. It's a reality. And so I have to look a bit deeper. I have to see where I am in this case. The central tenet of our religion is Tawheed. Right? Monotheism. Although monotheism is not a good translation because it tends to bind our way of looking at Tawheed to something that's very vague and abstract. Just a belief. Tawheed is something that encapsulates all of our religion. By saying it's the most important, I'm not saying that it's a one in which there's a two. No. In a very real way, it is the whole of our religion. From every belief system to every action that's asked for us, links back to this Tawheed. And I have to make those links. I have to encapsulate that within myself. What is the purest form and declaration of that? It's in salat. If we think about it, we're talking to someone, an entity that we are claiming as our master, our Lord, the creator of the universe, and they've called us towards praying to him. And we're answering that call by coming before him in prayer. In a very real way, that's a very pure demonstration of our understanding and acceptance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But let's look at our salat. How do we treat it? Most of the time, alhamdulillah, if we're at the very least, we're praying, most of the time we don't even understand what we're saying. Most of the time it's a thing done in rush, not really caring about what we're saying. Just think about it, for a moment, forget about anything else. if someone who's really important to you, really important person in your life, someone you really respect, comes up to you and is talking to you. They're saying, I want to talk to you for a brief moment. Right? A few moments of your time, I want to talk to you. Would we not give them the attention that they deserve? Would not at the very least, silence our phone so it doesn't interrupt that conversation? Do we want to have the decency to do that at least? We would. If it was a person, we would do it. How come it doesn't happen in prayer? Because we don't treat it like that. We don't treat it as ourselves meeting our Lord. We don't treat it as something real. There's an aspect to our religion that cannot be taught. It cannot be given from the outside, and it has to be obtained ourselves. We have to experience it ourselves. It's not possible otherwise. All of the structures that our religion provides us with, the acts that we're supposed to be doing, the prayer, the ahkam that we're supposed to be following, the akhlaq that we're supposed to be developing, all of them are geared for us to experience this. How many times do we talk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Again, sometimes these structures that we have around us in our day-to-day lives, the prayer, the fasting, the majalis, they cloud our understanding of ourselves. If we want a clear picture of ourselves, look at the time when we have nothing that's obligatory on us. Nothing that's I have to do in terms of religion. That empty space. At that time, what do I choose to do? Have I ever stopped to talk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that free time? Thought to myself, I'm not busy with anything. Let me just sit and talk with my Lord. Have I ever done that? If I haven't done that, then it shows that it's something that's not real to me. There's some dissonance happening. There's something separating me from that. How far are we from the companions of Imam Hussain? Their last night was filled with this munajat, with this talking with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's not delude ourselves into claiming that we're on that caravan. We have a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. Now, does that mean that, it's all doom and gloom and there's no way forward and let's just call it quits because it's not obtainable? No, of course not. The very fact that we're sitting here, the very fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the ability to sit here and to commemorate the martyrdom of Imam Hussain shows us that He has hope in us. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at us and giving us opportunity after opportunity to turn back towards Him. Right? That's the relationship that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has with us. Right? The love that a mother has for her child is nothing in comparison to the love that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has for us. If that doesn't cause us to pause and think, if that much attention is being given to us, then there's a reason. Then I can change. I can become different. One of the reasons, right? Perhaps wisdom is maybe a better way to say it. One of the wisdoms that this commemoration perhaps is within our lives day after day, year after year, is that you can find almost a perfect stereotype for every sort of person in the events of Karbala. For example, you want to look at someone who exemplifies redemption and comes back to the path when there's still time. You look at Hur. Now, with all respect to Hazrat Hur, all respect, we don't want to be him. We don't want to be him. We don't want to wait to the last moment and then turn to the right thing. Right? We don't want to do that. We don't want to be put in that position. We want to be much better. And it's not disrespectful to him. Right? It's an honest thing. Right? Of course, his status, if we could guarantee his status, obviously we'd want the status. But we don't want to follow that path, right, of making such a great fault and then recovering. No. But what it does show is that no matter where we are in our path, there is a path back. There's an opportunity for us to turn the path that our life is taking. No matter where we are, no matter our age, no matter where we find ourselves in our lives, no matter our past mistakes. Because whatever we've done, we haven't stopped the path of the grandson of the Prophet and brought them to a place where they're all going to die. We haven't done that. And that's something that Hazrat Hur did, but he was able to find his way back. So don't want to take any of this, even though it's depressing and it's sad and it's something like that. But don't want to take this as something that gives us, cuts our hope off. No, hope is eternal. In fact, if you look at the ranking of sins that are mentioned, usually if you look at the listing of greater sins, the second or third sin that's mentioned is losing hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as one of the greatest sins. Because by that you're saying that you've accomplished and done something that's greater than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. It's not possible. Not possible. So no matter where we are, there's still that path forward. Now, how do we find that? What is it that's stopping us from having this time in speaking with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having this munajat with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? There's another brief hadith that I want to mention. This again is something that's mentioned by several different imams. And one of them, with slight differences in how it's being mentioned, one of them says this, مَا لَأَوْلِيَائِ. It's a hadith Qudsi that's been mentioned to, and it's related as something mentioned to Hazrat Dawood. It says, مَا لَأَوْلِيَائِ وَالْهَمْ بِالدُّنْيَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that there's nothing that's connecting my awliya, the close people of Allah, the close companions of Allah, and concern for this world. They don't have any concern for this world. It continues. It says, إِنَّ الْهَمَّ يُظْهِبَ حَلَاوَةَ مَنَجَاتِ مِنْ قُلُوبِهِمْ. This concern for this world takes away and erases the pleasure of having this whispered and close connection with me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaking. And I promise you, if you look into our own lives, we can see that. We can see the points of our own failure are almost always centered around something about this world. Whether it's the riches, the material trappings that we have around us, the glitter and glory of something, of status, of respect of people, of some cultural expectations, of peer pressure, of societal pressure, of on and on and on. It's something of this world that stops us and turns us away from this munajat, this speaking with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And sometimes it's extremely hard to pick out. Right? Look in history. Right? One of the staunchest enemies of Imam Ali alayhi salam were the Khawarij. Right? But what was their claim, their sort of slogan? Right? Their slogan was that there is no rule, there's no decree except for Allah's. Right? That was their slogan. What was, if you went and looked at them, you would see that they have thick calluses on their head from doing sajda all the time. They would be hafiz of Quran. How does that happen? Because you still see within them there is this desire for this world. all of their difficulties sprung from that. A desire for some sort of power and status within this world. I'll mention another story. Maybe this is even more striking. And I feel like almost every speech, I may sometimes, a series of speeches at least, I might sometimes mention this story. There's a personality that we have, a great personality in Islam, who from his mother's side is related to the Prophet and Imam Ali Islam. From his father's side, he's related to Hazrat Khadija. He was one of the few people who came from a very dignified tribe, at least according to one account of history, and converted to Islam in the very beginning. Not after Hijrah, not after Fatih Makkah, but before that, before the Hijrah, when they would be giving up a lot. Converted then, maybe third, fourth person to convert to Islam. The Prophet himself calls him Sayful Islam, the sword of Islam. At the time of the Prophet's death, it's in one narration that he was in the house of Imam Ali Islam, and he took out his sword and said that I will not sheathe my sword until you give allegiance to Imam Ali. That's the kind of person he was. Right? He wasn't one of those companions who sat to the side. He was like this. This is Zubair. 20 years after the death of the Prophet, when Imam Ali Islam becomes the Khalifa, you see he's one of the first people to march out against him. How did that happen? What changed in those 20 years? My point in bringing him up is not to say that, there's no hope, as I've said time and time again. My point is that we shouldn't rest easy. The path that we're on, there's many, many, many times and places where we can fall. And so we have to be on our guard. We have to be constantly pushing forward. Because if we're not pushing forward, the tide of this world will pull us back. Will sink us. This is the time to do it, right? Because this is a time where, if nothing else, there should be a sense of some level of embarrassment and shame. Because we're reminding ourselves of Imam Hussein and Islam. And we did it the previous year and the year before that. But we know that we don't qualify. So we can use that embarrassment and shame. I know my time is running short. I'm going to just mention the last point. If we have this moment, right, moment of guilt or shame when looking at ourselves, we might see that it's quite easy to forget it. Maybe if it happened at one time, one moment of realization, we can find that if I go and hang out with my friends, or if I go and start eating food or this or that, I can forget about all of it. I can, it can be erased from my mind. And that's how it is for us. None of us likes to live in guilt. Nobody likes to feel guilty. Nobody likes to feel ashamed and embarrassed. But there's only two general responses that we can have to it. Either we change, and so that embarrassment and shame won't continue. Right? We don't face that guilt anymore. Or we do something so that we don't feel that guilt. Right? Meaning what? We have to perceive what we did to be right instead of wrong. How does that happen? For example, let's say that I don't pray, or if when I pray, I don't pray with that much attention. I know I feel guilty about it, honestly. But I can take away that guilt by, busying myself with other things, watching sports, doing this, hanging out with my friends, shopping, whatever, right? I can do plenty of other things to distract myself so I don't feel that guilt. But over time, we'll see that something changes. Because I'm constantly escaping that guilt, the importance that I give and that realization that I have that I've done something wrong will lessen and lessen and lessen. Until a time will come when I'll say, well, I don't need to pray. Right? God is there, As long as my heart is pure, as long as I go to these majalis, as long as I shed a tear, I'll be fine. I don't need to pray. I'll bring excuses, ways of going about it, turning something around. I'll change my belief system to escape that guilt. It's not something that I do consciously. It's subconscious. Now, if I expect myself as an individual to be able to save myself from that kind of danger, then I'm deluding myself. I need the help of brothers and sisters to be able to do that. We're supposed to be the mirrors of each other. The mu'mineen are supposed to be mirrors of their brothers. I'm supposed to be showing you your faults, and you're supposed to be showing me my faults. Right? I depend on you to do that. Need you to do that. Which means that we also have to live our lives like that. No, I know I said this the last point, but just one more point. On the timing of the majalis is such that there's a limit to how much I can speak. Eventually we'll reach into salat time and then I'm forced to stop. Inshallah, I'll stop before that. Please say salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The time and day that we live in, we'll see that, we know that it's confusing. There's a lot of gray areas. There's a lot of things that are cloudy and become difficult for us to judge which way to go. But some things are clear. Right? Some things are so clear that if we see ourselves running away from them, then that should be something that wakes us up. Right? The very fact that we're running away from something that's that clear should wake us up. And in some ways, it's a barakat that some of these kinds of events are happening in the world in this day and age. It's another opportunity that's maybe different about this Muharram compared to other Muharrams. We have things happening in Palestine. Atrocity and oppression to a level that there's no doubt on any basis that is something that needs to be spoken up against. A stand needs to be made against that, what's happening. And if I see for some reason that I'm making excuses, I'm running away from responsibilities for one reason or another, then that should wake me up as well. Right? Especially in Muharram. Right? How could it be that we are crying and commemorating Imam Hussain, the pinnacle of human justice, and we'd be completely silent and okay with oppression happening around the world? If that doesn't wake us up that there's something wrong. Now, I'm not saying that everyone's duty and obligation is the same, that we all need to sort of go across the world and start fighting. I'm not saying that. The ways that we support and the ways that we fight this oppression that's happening is varied, and maybe for each person it might be personal, based on their circumstances. I'm not saying that we all have to do one thing, but at the very least we should be praying, doing dua. At the very least we should be showing support in one way or another. Why can't we do that? What's holding us back from that? If we don't do that, we have the audacity to come here and cry for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Let's not delude ourselves, right? Inshallah, we can spend a few moments remembering the tragedy of Karbala. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بثنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعل الله آخر لحد مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Dear brothers and sisters, before we mention any musibah of Imam Hussein and what happened in Karbala, we should remember that the biggest musibah in some ways is our musibah. It's the musibah of looking at ourselves and having to wonder that if we were there on Ashura, what side of the battlefield were we on? It's the musibah of not having a clear answer to that question, for there were Muslims on both sides of that battlefield. And our musibah is that we don't know. We can't say for sure we would be on the right side. Imam Hussein and his caravan on this day have not yet reached Karbala. They're not yet on those hot sands. But those sands of Karbala are hot enough for us to feel that heat on this day. The cries of Al-Atash on Ashura are loud enough for us to hear today. The wails of the women are heart-rending enough for us to hear now. Not now meaning 9 days in advance, but now meaning 14 centuries after it happened. We still hear it echoing in our ears, piercing our hearts. When we look at Imam Hussein, we see that he was forced from Medina. But he's not the only Imam that was forced from Medina. Imam Rida was also forced from Medina as well. But what does Imam Rida say? He says to his companion, it's narrated that he says to his companion, Ya ibn Shabib, Ya ibn Shabib, in kuntu bakiyan la shay'in fabki lil Husayn. If you're going to cry for anything, if you're going to cry over any tragedy, any misfortune, cry for Hussein. For certainly he was slaughtered like the slaughtering of a goat. But we know in our adab, in our akhlaq and etiquettes, when you go to slaughter animals, first you feed them water. You give them water before slaughtering. But even that was not given to our Imam. Even that level of mercy, of kindness was not given to our Imam. In the tragedy of Karbala, there are so many different shining personalities and stories that we could mention. So many things, so many events. I'll just mention one and inshallah we can end. One of the last shuhada before Imam Hussein is the young son of Imam Hassan Abdullah. By some accounts, Imam Hassan had 3 sons that were present in Karbala. By some accounts 2. This son Abdullah was so young that he has no memory, no recollection of his father. The house that he grew up in is the house of Imam Hussain. The love that Imam Hussain has for him is perhaps more than the love that he has for his own children, because he sees within him the remembrance of his brother. But a time reaches on Ashura when Imam Hussain is left alone on these plains, when there's no one he can turn to. All the companions have gone, one after another. His family members have also gone, one after another, until only he remains. He's on the battlefield, fighting valiantly, until a time approaches when he's on the sands, and a man is reaching out with a sword extended. Out of the corner of his eye, it's narrated that Imam Hussain sees that there's a movement of a small child coming from the tents. He cries out to Zainab to stop him from coming to the battlefield. But she's unable to stop him. And this young child has no armor, has no weaponry. He only has his hands to extend before the sword strike of this Mal'oon. The sword falls down and his arms are severed. How difficult is it for Imam Hussain? Think about it. Watching this young child that grew up in your house sacrificing himself to save you. How difficult would it be for a father figure? Not just that, someone who's meant to protect the last remnant of his brother, to see him sacrificed in front of him. على لعنة الله على قوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. خاتم الحسين.
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein.
जब दास से चनी मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया खाजी जब दास से चनी मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया खाजी आले इमरान ने कहा और जिंदा ने कहा ये बहन कैद हुई तू ना आया काजी जब दास सचनी मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया काजी सचनी मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया हमको पानी ना मिले तेरी खुशबू तो है तेरे बाजू ना कते शाही मशकी जाच दे ये मगर हो ना सका تیرے بازو ہے جدا مجھ پہ ہے تشنا بھی تو نہ آیا حاضری جب داسر سے چنی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نہ جب داسر سے چنی میں صدا دیتی دھوپ میں تو سج تجھ سے آبات تگ ہے بے نام رس کیا نہیں تجھ کو خبر اے علامدار اے وفا اس بہن کو باخدا تجھ سے دعوستی بہی تو نہ آیا تو نہ آیا حاضی آ گئے شام علم لٹ گئے اہل حرم ات پر جلتی ہوئی ہو گیا تن دالم پس دینے کے لیے مجھ سے ملنے کے لیے آ گئے بابا علی تو نہ آیا غازی سے چنی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نہ آیا کیا کہوں شعر میں بیدا ہم کو لیے یہ مسلمان سارے شہر در شہر گئے خلق کے کوفہ کبھی خلق کے شام خبی اور ہاں ہم پہ ہنسی تو نہ آیا غازی سر سے چنی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نہ آیا غازی سر سے چنی میں صدا دیتی رہی تو نہ آیا غازی
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام ولك السلام وإليك يعود السلام سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام على الأئمة الهادين المهديين السلام على جميع أنبياء الله ورسله وملائكته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين السلام على علي أمير المؤمنين السلام على فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين السلام على الحسن المجتبى السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله السلام عليك يا وارث علي أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام ولي الله السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. السلام عليك يا أولياء الله وأحباؤه. السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله وأوداءه. السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا أنصار فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الناصح. السلام عليك يا أنصار أبي عبد الله. بأبي أنتم وأمي طبتم وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما، فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الوصين. السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلاما وأقدمهم إيمانا وأقومهم بدين الله وأحوطهم على الإسلام. أشهد لك لقد نصحت لله ولرسوله ولأخيك، فنعم الأخ المواسي. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة استحلت منك المحارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام. فنعم الصابر المجاهد المحامي الناصر والأخ الدافع عن أخيه المجاهد المجيب إلى طاعة ربه الراغب فيما زهد فيه غيره من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل، وألحقك الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم. السلام على محمد بن علي الباقر علم النبيين. السلام على جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام على موسى بن جعفر الكاظم. السلام على علي بن موسى الرضا. السلام على محمد بن علي الجواد. السلام على علي بن محمد الهادي. السلام على الحسن بن علي الزكي العسكري. السلام على الحجة بن الحسن القائم المهدي صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين.
Brothers and sisters, as we mentioned, we will inshallah be having Jamaat namaz at prime time. We do have a few minutes in between, so I would request the sisters to please make their way back into the sisters' hall, and brothers, you will have the hall to yourselves. Thank you.
I don't know until time for once the song starts, like tell them to start rapping. If you feel like that you have to make that judgment, like it's all good. We're not that stupid, but yeah. No. I won't. Yeah, I won't do that. Yes. at the start.
I mean, I can change the term, longer or shorter. Today I was a bit afraid of sanctions or so is it like
The EC said that if he gets here, in the morning though, like, because it's only like during the weekend. Yeah, so like, we're okay. They bought the site. It's our upcoming. It's a good building. Inshallah. It's actually like in Scarborough. So on your way here, it's like yeah, it'll be like the big things. So every year, like, we have this year we're going to be like nice. Yeah, now we're fundraising. Marketing as well. Oh, wait, this is Ahmed. Syed. This is Science Center, bro. You're paying one of the deck. So is yeah, those what's that in your mind? What's the how this one is? Whoever's there can start. Yeah, we'll take care. Yeah, Yeah, at the start. It's the first night, so I'm not ignites yeah, so that's going to still be more. So we had like that's a Paramount. Yeah, we won't do that. People just late to the we're starting from tomorrow. Ahmed is an associate. So altogether, executives are like 9 executives, and then we have like associates.